We've talked about cancer and you've also talked about diabetes, but heart disease remains the #1 health crisis in America today. And high blood pressure and stroke are the premier indicator that a person's heart and blood vessels may be in trouble. Yet, I have to believe one of the most amazing aspects of your research was that noni seemed to have nearly across-the-board capacity to help people lower their blood pressure and help with symptoms of strokes. Tell us about your heart health findings.
Heart, blood pressure, and stroke are 3 parts of the cardiovascular system, or problems of the cardiovascular system. Heart disease, we found that 3.5 ounces a day of Tahitian noni juice helped 76% of 2,158 people who had heart disease. Blood pressure, which is a silent killer of those people with blood pressure elevations, 1,869 people, 84% said that 3 ounces of Tahitian noni juice a day helped them, and in fact, many of their doctors have documentation their blood pressure went down. Strokes, which is the toughest of all in the cardiovascular field to try to do something about once you get it, there were 1,806 people. And of those people, 53% said it definitely helped after they took on an average of 3.5 ounces a day of Tahitian noni juice.
That's amazing. You know, Dr. Solomon, before I met you today, I didn't know hardly anything about noni juice, Tahitian noni juice. But with all of your findings, all of your studies and the results that you're getting, this is shouted from the mountaintops kind of information. It's kind of the thing that I think every family in America could be benefiting. And now I want to move on to another condition. Certainly, being HIV positive doesn't contain the same death sentence that it did 10 or 15 years ago. But it is still a major health concern in the United States and abroad, especially in Africa. What did you find out from the 150 subjects in your research who were HIV positive?
We found that 55% of them said that they had decreased symptoms after taking 3.5 ounces of noni, that's the Tahitian noni juice a day. Now there are 2 types of HIV. There's type 1 that's found in the United States and type 2 that's found in Europe. And these are different. The criteria for AIDS is you have to have, first, HIV has to be positive. It could be type 1 or type 2. And then in addition to that, you either need to have an opportunistic infection. That's an infection that you wouldn't have if you didn't have HIV positive. Or you need to have helper T cells of less than 200. Now the normal cells, helper T cells that you and I should have would be about 600 to 1,000. Again, this, for the first time, I think, that I know of, gives you something natural without the terrible side effects that might be able to help people with HIV.
Now, one of the earliest uses of the noni, and I'm talking about nearly 2,000 years ago in the tropical islands of the South Pacific, was as a pain reliever. So, I'm sure your research also included a look at how noni juice affected modern-day acute and chronic pain.
Yes, and there is a difference between the 2 of them. Acute pain is just what it says. Something happens, it's acute. But if acute pain lingers and lingers and lingers, it becomes chronic pain. And when it becomes chronic pain, it opens the gates. There are gates in the neurological system where pain fibers go and the pain impulses go. If it opens the gates and it can't close them, you're constantly getting pain down there. That is chronic pain. in my study, of 6,828 people with real, honest-to-goodness pain, 86% said that on 3 ounces a day of Tahitian noni juice, they had symptomatic relief. Some almost complete, and some just some.
Okay. Not a lot of people talk about this, but kidney health can certainly have a dramatic impact on our quality of life. And again, Dr. Solomon, you say that noni juice can help people with kidney symptoms.
Absolutely. Of 3,764 people who had kidney symptoms, 67% said they had a decreased symptom on 2 ounces a day. One of the unknown things about this is that noni helps the prostate. And for those of us who are over 60, the chances of us having prostate problems is about 80%, and drinking Tahitian noni juice can help those symptoms, and you'll get up much less frequently at night to go to the bathroom.
That's good news. Now, since noni contains potassium, and since people with kidney disease should not take in excess of potassium, it follows that people with kidney disease should not drink noni.
Well, that's where a little bit of truth can lead you astray.
Okay.
Too much potassium you shouldn't take. But Tahitian noni juice does not have too much potassium. According to the recommended daily allowance for potassium, we should take in about 2,000 milligrams. That's 2 grams a day. Tahitian noni juice contains 28.52 milligrams per ounce. That's 28.52 milligrams of potassium per ounce. Now that's less, that's 50% less than the comparable amount of orange juice or tomato juice has. It's less than what grape juice, pineapple juice, apple juice contain. So they all contain much more potassium than Tahitian noni juice. So taking it in moderation shouldn't cause you a problem.
Earlier, you mentioned that noni juice is good for pets. Talk about that for a while.
Well, there's some very interesting data on this. And Dr. Tran studied over 10,000 four-legged patients. And those four-legged patients, he found that about 90% were helped when they had Tahitian noni juice. Now, they didn't know whether they were getting a placebo or not.
Okay.
And he says, you know, that shows it's much more than a placebo effect. It's also been shown to help for horses. And there's now a study done by Dr. John Bird, Dr. Richard Godby, Tammy Tanner, Charlemagne James, Richard Ng, and I can go on and on and on, who've shown that Tahitian noni juice given in the plan for the equine can help horses.
Well, I don't have a horse, but if I did, I'd certainly give him some noni.
You'd ride that horse.
Yes, I would.